Covert racism is, for me, as much as we have a definition of it, covert racism, it's a racism that is not yet defined. People are not aware of it because we do it unknowingly, in passing, just a comment because it's norm.
The racism that's undercover, that's not really seen, like hidden racism. And I think I am not that aware of it, but I know it exists.
We are in a thoroughly racialized society. We are erased people, meaning we suffer from straight out, not even amnesia. It exists everywhere we go.
Heroes of South Africa, most unappreciated. Their works, nothing to account for. Their voices echo, alas, to walls. Their wisdom ancient, perhaps forgotten as of late, as these recent acts of hate infiltrate the young minds within our state. Rainbow Nation was their promise. 22 years later, I failed to see this assurance that was given to us so carefree.
So firstly, you've got to understand that I'm an academic, and my area of expertise is in the field of decolonization. And I'm working a lot now with trying to decolonize the curricula. And in my particular PhD project, I'm dealing with ideas of how to decolonize international relations using the body of work of a sage called Iskia Mpahlela. Covert racism is a nonsensical term in my book. It's a social construct, and it should be understood and read as such. So racism in its architecture is basically a systematic oppressive thought structure that emanates from Eurocentricity. So we need to actually problematize concepts of covert racism because they're really they're misleading concepts, and they shift us from the real attention which we should be giving, which is really racism in its entirety.
My name, Mohawa, it feels like white people can't say it. So I've got a fake name, Sebastian. So I'm sort of kind of running away from my own race to kind of fit into being a white person.
Covert racism is as real as racism itself because it discriminates against people who do not have the knowledge that they're actually being prejudiced against.
Historically also, they will also try and paint a narrative that, look, good white people today wouldn't have done what bad white people then did, sort of suggesting that those bad white people were not actually human beings. They were actually demons, you know. And they today were human, and we can work together. Let us work together, and that actually is just a facade.
Everybody experiences racism every day. It's how you understand racism that really gives you this romantic ideal or misnomer that you're actually not experiencing racism. Because your very reality is as a reaction to the system which you find yourself being oppressed under.
You cannot avoid race. If you look at somebody, you automatically see race. If you go out in public, you see white people with white people, black people with black people. It's just how we're automatically built in. And it's in that sense, there's nobody that can say, I see you, but I don't see your race.
So this is part of the freedom question, really. You know, how free are we? Because if we understand ourselves to be free in a particular way, we're not going to limit ourselves even in our personal orientations, right? So, because a relationship, I think, is supposed to be a personal thing.
I have a Cape Malaysian friend. We've been friends for 8 years, which is pretty cool. But then I've seen how, well, in the past, when I'd go visit her, her dad would kind of like look at me funny. I don't know. it's something you don't really notice because it's not outright. It's not like the person is saying, Kulufelo, get out of here. I don't want to see you, or I don't want you to keep company with my daughter. But you can see it.
One of my best friends is a white guy. And the one reason why we got together was like, he was like, dude, you're black, whatever, life goes on. And with him, it was fine. But as soon as I got into interracial couples, like dating and stuff like that, and because I play rugby and I speak Afrikaans, I had an incident where a father assumed I was white because he spoke to me over the phone. And then we got to his farm and I wasn't white. And he assumed I was new staff. Until we had to clear it out that, no, this is Liso Langman, the boy. Like, oh, but he plays first team rugby. Like, yeah, and he's a prop. Yeah, it's him. And then as the weekend progressed, when we were braaiing and we were chilling and we went for a hunt the next morning, the old man pipes out, yeah, no, but you're fine.
Let's say if you go out to restaurants, then you have to eat a certain way because the norm is black people don't know how to eat properly, or black people don't know how to use a fork and knife, or black people are noisy, or black people are messy. So now you have to kind of like, prep yourself up and create some attitude to fit in and look like I am just like you. It's just that I am black.
What made me fine? The fact that I can make fire the way you want me to make fire, the fact that I can braai the meat the way you want me to braai the meat, the fact that I can shoot a gun, because I've been in surroundings where I've been taught how to hunt. That was when I was fine. And at that particular time, I felt great. This was my girlfriend at the time's father that I was impressing. But in retrospect, in me feeling great about that, I could have quite literally shown the zap to the liberation struggle. And to people like Steve Biko that are like, listen, guys, being black is cool. Because for a brief moment, or not a brief moment, let me not lie, for a long time in my life, being deemed as that socially acceptable black white Turk was cool. The guy that can come into a socky party and just blend in, and that was cool. Until I realized that none of that was actually my black self. Because if I can't discuss eating ulusu, which I enjoy, in that kind of party because it's disgusting, to who? And I just got tired, in growing up, I got tired of having to conform to what I'm not to satisfy a group of people that don't give a shit about me.
Man, Henry Clark Jr. says it, There shall be no revolution between the legs of white women. We can never ever get this revolution happening. If we are to build and genuinely achieve revolution, we have to keep it at home. So we need to strengthen the black family by keeping it within our racial line.
There's this thing that goes on, or this norm, or this idea that people have that a black person is never capable or is not capable of socializing with other ethnic groups because of the way they speak and because they do not understand. It's as though when people look at you, you're stupid, at first hand. So when you approach them, they expect you to say, hello, my name is Kulufelo, and have this hard accent. And people are shocked when you can actually speak without any interruptions or, without being uncomfortable. And I have actually had to compromise myself when I'm around other ethnic groups because I try to speak in a sense where they do not feel uncomfortable speaking to me. They do not feel like they have to downplay their intelligence or they have to speak to me as if I'm a dumb person simply because I'm black, And I've had lecturers and coordinators come up to me and say, you actually speak very well for a black person. Why does it have to be that? Because I'm a black person, I'm expected to speak in a different way. So I have found myself compromising who I am.
Look at the guys that are making it in the rugby world right now. In the whole country. The guy that's coaching Booker right now, he's black, doesn't speak Vernac. He speaks Afrikaans. So how black is he? And how black is acceptable? Look at a guy that's coaching the Lions. He's one of the junior rank coaches. If you addressed a black coach as a black kid, coach, good take what. We only speak English here, this, that, the next thing. So who died and made English and Afrikaans lifestyle the living standard in sports?
Every day as a black body in this anti-black world, you are protesting. Every day. Because the very idea of I need to get through this hurdle, because the odds are not to your favor. Everything is anti you. But your resolve, your perseverance, that is a protest. It is not in this popular way of you singing songs and you making noise. But it's, look, this is what I have to do and I'm just going to have to do it. I signed up for it and somebody's got to break somebody's back at some point. And nothing that is progressive ever comes out of no sweat.
As soon as you as a black employee start talking about the black numbers in the team with selections, you then deemed a comrade. Or why do you have to be that guy? Or I thought you were a decent guy. Whereas you simply question things like, I've seen friends of mine being denied contracts because they're black. And when you're like, but then if you look at his performance as the black kid and look at his performance as the white kid, why is he getting it? They're like, no, he meets the attributes. And then what attributes of he's stronger and he's quicker and he's whatever. So if you, in the meetings, are the guy raising the controversial questions as to why do certain players, unfortunately, a lot of white players get away with it. If so-and-so doesn't train on, let's say, on a Wednesday because his parents take him to someone's wedding, and if Siso doesn't train because he's writing a test, Tim will come back and Sibu won't. So as soon as I learned, as soon as I started asking those questions, my own boss ignored me. And then you sort of go a step higher, and then they ignore you more until you get to a point where they do sort of acknowledge you. But then as soon as you're acknowledged by the people who can change it, your contract's not renewed.
Covert racism, I feel, as a subtle racism, manifests when because it has been so normalized, legitimized by the way things have been going on thus far in society, it's very hard to pick it up. And every time you point out an insidious situation and call it racist, some people have perpetuate a narrative which seems to suggest that we are actually promoting racism when we actually call out things to be racist, when actually by not talking about it, we're allowing it to settle in within us. And it starts accumulating to a point where we reach a boiling point. And that is what I believe has been expressed in these movements, protests.
The protests, by the way, I argue, are not happening now. We've been protesting since 94. It's like this fees must fall nonsense. It needs to be said and called for what it is. Black universities have been striking every year with no fail. But when UCT and VETS strike, oh my gosh, suddenly there are protests in South Africa. There are protests in tertiary. We know our parents protested. We know that our friends, families who are at Venda, Limpopo, they've been protesting. But it hasn't made any impression to the nation as when it is white monopoly capital institutions which are run by the Jews, VETS, which are run by the Anglo-Saxon cabal, UCT, and now Stellenbosch, which is the Broederbond mafia. Oh, you see, when you touch whiteness, oh, something must happen. But whenever you hit the black body, you can rape it, you can steal from it, you can knife it, you can stab it, it's normal.
I don't think anybody should think themselves superior, because you don't live in your own island. You coexist with other people. Just think of yourself as a person who has a mission, because we are all on this earth for a purpose.
I'm for the view that there has to be an overhaul in all forms of where power is concentrated in society.
We will forever be in a zone of non-being for as long as we do not grasp that black people get over your nonsense. You can never be racist. What you can do, however, is you can be racially, you can have a racial position which basically makes you prejudiced to certain people based on color. That you can't escape.